Hello and welcome to the Catch a Lift Coaches Corner. I am Cal Coach and Program Director Melissa, and this week I'm honored to welcome Chris Haley to the show. Chris is a retired U.S. Army veteran, Cal veteran athlete, assistant athletic trainer in Texas. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coaches Corner. Chris, welcome. Thanks for
Hello.
being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure to talk with you today. Chris, would you start off today by talking to us a bit about your life growing up and what would ultimately lead you to the Army?
Yeah. So I was actually born at Walter Reed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My mom was in the Army at the time, and then we moved to Fort Hood, and then that was the last time she was active duty. From there, we moved to California. I lived in California from basically 3 till I was a freshman in high school. It was in 7th grade when 9/11 happened, so I was old enough. I knew exactly what was going on.
Right.
That was kind of the moment that things kind of changed, and that idea in my head that I was going to be in the military at some point had already started popping up then. After my 8th grade year, my mom deployed to Kosovo, and that's when I lived in Arizona for my freshman year of high school. Then moved back to California for my sophomore and junior year, and then my senior year was in Texas. It was there. I was stuck because I wanted to go to college, but at the same time I knew I wasn't ready for college. But I didn't want to be at home, and it just happened. I went to a high school party my senior year. There was some dude that was 26, and I freaked out. I just didn't want to be that guy that was going to high school parties when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, right.
So I had already been talking to a Marine recruiter. I had talked to the Air Force. The only one left was the Army. My parents were really trying to push me away from the Army and the Marines for that. But I came up with an agreement with my mom. As long as I didn't pick a combat arms job, he was okay with it.
Yep.
So I settled on medic. Because in my mind, it was like, that's the next best thing.
Right.
And then when I was, so it was like I enlisted 3 weeks before graduation and then didn't leave for basic until August. And that was in 2007.
Okay,
so we were in the end of the surge kind of era.
Okay.
And then went to basic at Fort Benning. Had an absolute not a blast there.
Yeah. Talk to us a bit about that basic at Benning. What was that
basic at Benning is rough when you're not infantry.
Yeah.
Because they definitely make sure that you are very well aware of the fact that you are not infantry.
Having never had any type of experience like that, I can believe that. I can believe that you went out there. You know what? You are not infantry.
Yeah. I mean, we went on a run, and I'm qualified for A group by a second, which was the gravest mistake of my entire life because I am a B group runner, barely, and I qualified for A group by 1 or 2 seconds. The guy who ran the A group was a monster. I think he ran just over a 10-minute 2 miles. So there was no one could keep up with it.
Yeah.
So we tried. We gave it our effort. I mean, I do remember we were on a run and we ran past some infantry barracks. He pulled over to the side because he saw one of his buddies that he went to drill instructor school with, and his buddy smoked us for not being infantry, and then we continued on our run. So that was basic training.
So that was basic.
Yeah, that was basic. Good part of my class was medic, so a big portion of us actually went to Fort Sam all together. We were all in the same class, so that was kind of nice. We caught ourselves a bit. Yeah, we had our own little group.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, the Benning boys.
Nice.
And yeah, AIT was it's like 16 weeks of just you're drinking water through a fire hose. You really don't I don't know how, if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know if I felt prepared enough to be a medic. I just when I graduated, I was like, well, I'm probably gonna be a platoon medic, so this is gonna be kind of intense. I didn't know what it was gonna be like. About 3/4 of the way through, I found out I was getting stationed in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Said Fort Wainwright, AK, which in my mind decided to tell me, now that's Arkansas. So I wasn't as upset. And then my boy's like, no, that's Alaska. Then immediately checked the temperature. It's in January when we got our orders, so it was negative 25. And I just like and my buddy got Hawaii, so he got Schofield Barracks, so he's laughing at me. I'm like inside, I'm crying because I'm like I'm gonna freeze. I don't know how to handle. The coldest I'd seen was 18 degrees. So
California, Arizona, training, Texas, Georgia, Texas,
Southern California too. So like no. So that was basically how I ended up in the military, and how my kind of like played into high school. Though I played football, baseball, soccer, and that was kind of what I think helped me get through basic. I was used to getting yelled at by coaches.
Right.
So
yeah.
Yelled at by a drill sergeant for something that you may or may not have done didn't faze me. My old baseball coach had actually been a Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
So he had been as an officer, both deployments. So he
probably had a little Spitfire in him.
Yeah, he did. He was a fiery dude, and he kind of got us, I think, more ready for life. And
cool.
I think he was probably the main reason I made it through basic, because like I've been called things by you
Very
that
cool.
I'm not. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
My feelings aren't hurt. So yeah.
Was there? I want to ask you about. So when you were in medic school, like you said, so we're talking about kind of 07 time frame. So both Iraq, Afghanistan are underway. Was there a sense when you were training up, like this is going to be on my plate sooner than later, or wasn't that really kind of in your mind yet at that point?
I felt a lot of us felt like it was sooner than later. We actually had a guy who was prior service infantry that had come from the unit from Wainwright when they were the 173rd. Or 172nd. Yeah, 172nd.
Okay.
Striker Brigade. There we go. I get them mixed up. But yeah. So he had come from there. And so his thing was like, once we found out our orders, he's like, you guys are getting ready to deploy in a year, less than a year. So just be ready for it. And so, I mean, I kind of expected being 18 years old that I was going to go to a combat unit that was getting ready to deploy. I didn't think it was going to be in that same calendar year when we finished basic and AIT. But that's kind of what happened.
So you would head up to Alaska to your unit, and right, so you're gonna have a quick turnaround. What did that kind of look like training up to actually go on your first deployment?
By the time I got up there, I think I was in the field the very first day I processed into the unit. It took me straight to the rifle range to qual. They gave me like 70 rounds because they didn't think I could shoot, and I qualified expert. I had like
good grief.
Yeah, they were like, "There's no way." I outshot a bunch of dudes. They gave them all
nice
because they're like, our brand new medic just qualified expert, and you guys can't. That night, I also did a nightstick IV for the first time in my entire life.
Wow.
With night vision on.
Wow, what was that like?
And my future CO, because I wasn't even officially in Charlie Company. They were just like, you're gonna go to Charlie Company, you're gonna be their platoon medic, but you're still an HHC, kind of how the medics usually work.
Okay.
You're usually stuck in a headquarters battalion, and then you get tasked out to different companies based on needs.
Okay.
So they told me I was going there. It hadn't been official. And then my CO's in there, my senior medic's in there, my future platoon sergeant's in there. I did it on one of my team leaders. So like that was like my welcome to the unit.
Wow. Yeah.
You know how good our new doc is. And I did well. I mean, I passed the first couple tests. Yeah. And they're like, okay, this guy at least do some stuff. And then we were doing train ups to go to NTC. And that was where I kind of earned a lot of my platoon's respect. I stood up to our sergeant major because he said I did something wrong. I said, no, this is what I was trained to do. I'm the medic. You're the infantry sergeant major. So let me do my job.
Nice,
in a much more professional way. And
right.
They kind of were like, okay, this PFC just stood up to a sergeant major.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah. So yeah, we're good with him. I think after that, I was officially doc. I wasn't just
okay.
I was doc, and I earned it from there.
Nice.
Went to NTC in, I want to say it was July. So terrible time to be at Fort Irwin in Strikers before they had the air
Oh,
conditioning. So we survived that, got back. And then, yeah, in September, we were in Iraq.
talk to us about the Iraq deployment, Chris. What was that like?
Uh, it was interesting. It started off really intense. We had 2 guys get killed our first 2 weeks there. I
Wow.
happened to be on the base because we were out at a company cop. One of our platoons was on the base for their maintenance day. We had to drop off some rifles that we had found on a patrol the day before. So we were doing that, and while we were there, we got hit by incoming. 2 of our guys were killed, and that kind of like set how we thought the deployment was going to go.
Right.
And then that was really it. We had a couple IEDs here and there, but nothing beyond like a blown tire. The only thing that they started doing while we were out there was just throwing grenades at our vehicles while we were driving because they knew we were up in the air guard hatches. But
Yep.
nothing significant happened outside of responding, just your normal stuff. Suicide vests were a big deal around that time where we were at. So that was something we had to respond to. But my platoon, we just were like the golden child. Like we never got hurt. We would drive through a road. 30 minutes later, another platoon would drive through the same road. They'd get blown up. I don't know. We were more lucky than good. That deployment, I think, was kind of where a lot of the stuff that affected me psychologically came back after I got hurt, and that was kind of the combination of the 2 deployments kind of came to the surface, and that's where I had a lot of issues.
What was it like coming home from Iraq, getting back with the unit? And did you guys go back to Alaska right away, or what would happen? Okay.
Yeah, we go right back to Alaska, and the first thing waiting for us in the barracks was a keg.
So that tracks. That makes sense.
Yeah. They just made sure that all the single dudes were taken care of. I mean, obviously most of us were 19, but I mean, I feel like that was one of the ones where like, hey, no one's gonna charge the dude who just got back from Iraq for drinking underage. And then that was it. The big problem was the way our deployment cycles worked out. We lost a lot of our guys from that previous deployment. So when we went to Afghanistan, the way a lot of our contracts worked out is they actually had to get us to extend to deploy. In order to be combat effective, they needed a bunch of us to either re-enlist or extend to deploy, because otherwise they would have been, I don't know if they would have been able to go. That's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a bunch of us did it because it was like $500 a month. So
right.
To an E4, like, yeah, I'll take the $500 tax free.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No questions asked.
How much time was kind of elapsing in there, Chris?
About 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was when I basically went from being a platoon medic, kind of in that time frame, I was given a choice to be a company senior medic or the battalion medic. And I chose to be a senior medic because I felt for me, I knew I didn't think I was an expert, but I knew kind of what I was doing as a medic. And I felt that my experience was better there than at the battalion.
Okay.
Turned out to be a good decision. I felt like, when we were getting the new medics, training them up, you get guys that had been on the line kind of knew what to look for. And I knew kind of what makes a decent line medic. And I knew kind of how you got to your mentality that you have to have. And that was the big thing, as I didn't care what you look like. You could be a big dude, but if mentally you can't handle it. And I understood you have to be a lot tougher than everyone else because you're going to have to see a lot of things. You're going to have to see your buddies get hurt and or killed. And you have to basically treat them, move on, and then deal with that down the road. And I had to find people that I knew could hopefully do that. You never know, because that's the downside of being a medic. They don't really talk about. They mention it, but they don't tell you oh yeah, when you grab up your buddy, you're gonna have to go back out on patrol the next day, or even the rest finish that patrol. And no, and you as a medic are oftentimes the platoon psychologists. Like they're coming to you with their problems. Like
for everything. Yeah,
I was
with
giving
everything.
marriage advice when I was 19, and I'd never been married or even had a real serious relationship.
Right.
So, a lot of times you're just kind of like, well, here's what I would do, but I'm also 20 years old, still hadn't been married.
So right, like you're 20 years old. You've been through your medic school, but like you said, this isn't really something that's talked about at length really at all, right? It's the unspoken truth of the job. What helped you at such a young age develop that mentality? What do you think contributed to that?
I think I just knew that being a medic was more, you're the morale guy. Like, if you can keep a positive attitude, even if like deep down inside you're miserable,
Yeah.
the dudes will keep going if they know. And they also know that, like, that's why when I really wanted to stay on the line was just because I knew how important it was to like get these guys to understand like how important it is to be like not fake happiness, but be as positive as humanly possible, even when things are terrible, because they need that. Like they need someone to be the positive guy. So that's kind of where that came from, was just being a positive, kind of like chipper person, even though I'm really not that chipper. I just make jokes when everyone was miserable, like I'll crack a joke here because people need to laugh. That was me.
Okay. So talk to us about going to Afghanistan, Chris, what that deployment would be like for your company and for yourself.
I honestly had the wrong idea about Afghanistan. I thought it was going to be just like Iraq. I thought it was going to be an absolute cakewalk, which is one of the number one rules in combat, is don't underestimate your enemy. So when we first got there, I was a little cocky. Because I'd been through it, and I basically was like, last time I didn't get touched, so should be a breeze. And it was not. Things didn't start off as hot either, and that was, I think, kind of fueled that. But I think I caught myself like 2 months into our deployment. One of our sister companies got hit pretty hard. They lost a dude. One of my buddies had been the medic, and he got hit pretty hard. So it kind of set me back, like, okay, this is a real deployment. We actually need to take things way more seriously than. I mean, we took it seriously, but in my mind, the gear started turning. Like, all right, this is going to be a different deployment. And then from then on, it was just making sure my guys were good, because they were out on platoon cops, so they were just platoon bases everywhere. And then I had our 4th platoon, so our MGS and our mortars were all on one base, and just trying to keep my guys that were by themselves, keep them happy, make sure that they were doing well. And then on my base, just kind of make sure that things were good there, and, kind of make sure that we were doing stuff that was productive, doing some training here and there, but not overtraining, because I also feel like there's that fine line you got to find between training and overtraining. You overtrain out here. Over there, it doesn't do you any good to overtrain, because now dudes are burnt out, and that's when mistakes happen. So it was just kind of keeping their mind sharp. We did have an incident where an Afghan, it was like 3 months in, got shot in the neck point blank by his commander because he fell asleep on guard.
Holy cow.
The commander stated that he meant to fire it by him, but he moved, and that's what caused him to shoot him in the neck. And I was like,
gosh,
I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. Wow.
We did what we could. We got him onto the bird. When we got him, he didn't have a pulse. When we put him on the bird, he at least had a pulse. Unfortunately, passed away 2 days later. But that was like I got to see my guys in action, because a couple of my dudes were on the base, just sheer dumb luck. And so I got to see them in action. I think that kind of was like for them, it was also a realization that this is real, and everything we do from here on out is going to be extremely real, and we need to be spot on.
It's very high stakes.
Yeah, this, like, one mistake can cost someone their life. So I think that was a good training opportunity, even though it was with a real person. It gave us a unique, I guess, direction of like this is what this is. This is what combat really is. And then It was in July and August. We were on a month long. We were basically operating out of a patrol base, um, doing some clearing operations, building a new base that we were told that we were going to. And then about a week before the base was ready to be open, they were told, "Oh yeah, your company's not going to be staying here. That this area that you've been in for the last month, you guys are going into further into Kandahar to the Horn of Panjwai." And that's basically where we ended up, and that's where everything really changed.
Talk to us about that area and what the missions would be like.
So we were going into a platoon area. Our whole company was going into where our platoon had been. They had been rocked really hard. So like brigade guess felt that we needed a company where a platoon had been. I think within the first 5 minutes of getting there, we got hit by incoming. I think it was a recoilless rifle. They had learned to use that thing as basically like a mortar. And that was first 5 minutes. And then while I was in that first 5 minutes, it happened. They brought in an Afghan that they had a platoon, like a squad had been out. They saw it, they shot at him, and they brought him in. And then we got hit again. And that was actually how I earned my CMB, which I felt like was like it bothered me at the time because I knew that's what I was getting written up for. And I was like, this, I've done so many things, but this is what I'm going to get it for. And then then 2 weeks later was when I ended up getting hurt.
Will you talk to us about the day you were injured, Chris?
Yeah. So it was just September 28th, 2011. The day before on our mission brief, basically we're getting told we're going to go clear and find an IED factory. There was a little bit of talk back and forth of how we should really do it. After the meeting, my first sergeant pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Doc, just make sure you and your guys have extra tourniquets because this is going to be bad." And I went, "Okay, I'll make sure we're ready." So I got my guys that were going. I briefed them as best as I could because even I don't even get all the information. I'm just getting told drop-off points.
Right.
How many people are going so I can plan the amount of medics. It was one of those kind of missions where we actually brought a surgeon with us, which was
Really?
which was probably one of the rare times
I was going to say, right, does something like
just a
when or how or why would that happen?
Yeah, exactly. That was again why I was thinking this is going to be a bad day for a lot of people.
Wow, what the heck? That's incredible.
Yes.
Okay.
So we get dropped off. We wake up, and that was the only time I had an odd feeling, like when I was putting my boots on, putting my knee, like all my gear on, like it just felt weird. It felt different. I don't know what it was. Just something just felt off. Got into my medical vehicle. We drove off to our drop-off point, got off. Everyone got set up. It was 2 platoons plus like most of our headquarters platoon, which was like the most random squad of all time. It was like a cook, a mortarman, a sniper, one of our intel guys, myself. Like it's like a hosh posh of a squad that we went on regular patrols with. It didn't make any sense, but we did it and we had a lot of fun. But yeah, so we get out there. We set up our casualty collection point. I decided to like sit down for a second and just kind of like close my eyes like I normally do, just kind of like get my mind right.
Okay.
As they were starting to clear the first house, that's when we heard an explosion. I jumped up, grabbed my bag. My first sergeant was like, "Let's go. We got to wait though." I tried to just run off by myself. They had to grab me, pull me back. They said, "We got to do this." We had to have a point man. My first sergeant, it was my point man, my first sergeant, myself. We had a medical platoon starting with us from another battalion that we were working with, and then our battalion surgeon, and then one more dude. We came into the compound where the explosion had happened. I was the third person through the door, and I just took off in a dead sprint towards one of our guys who had stepped on it. Immediately walking into the house, he had stepped on it. He was the only one hurt in that first blast, so they pulled him out. They had started putting tourniquets on him. All I did was just tighten him up, start talking to him.
Okay.
Then I kind of realized he was going in and out of consciousness, so I was going to give him an airway, and then I was going to set him up for an IV so I could start pushing narcotics and other stuff. And then I did something that I'd never done before. Is instead of throwing my bag right down and next to me, I put it next to the wall because we were in how the normal Iraqi or Afghan houses in the corner. There's a big courtyard, and then there's walls all the way around the house. So I figured, being in that there was a ton of footprints everywhere else, I was fine. And then when I stood up, the next thing I know, I'm upside down. I honestly had thought we'd got, like, somebody had thrown a grenade over the wall. Because it was such a weird explosion, I couldn't explain it. So I tried to stand up. First I flopped my back down on the ground, tried to stand up. Thought my foot was broken because it wasn't reacting right. Like, I could feel where my foot is supposed to be, but I wasn't getting like that push off like I get with my foot. So I angled my leg, saw that my leg was mostly gone below the knee. So then I realized I needed a tourniquet, went to reach with my left arm to grab a tourniquet and realized that my arm was also broken. The bone was sticking through my shirt. So then I tried to do it with my right hand, but my right hand was like, it felt frozen, like I couldn't move it. Turns out I had degloving in my right hand. And then I was like trying to realize, like, look at what else was messed up. My left leg was pretty bad. I could see my tibia, and I think I could see part of my femur, but I wasn't really certain at the time. And then
so you're conscious this whole time, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Completely conscious. Don't even feel like, I just have like a slight headache in my left. Both my ears are ringing. But this all took place in like a matter of like 10, 15 seconds. It felt like 10 hours.
Right.
Then I just yelled out, but I didn't yell out like a normal person. I just said, "Hey, can I please get a tourniquet?" They thought it was, my first sergeant was the one who came through the cloud of smoke. And when I talked to him later on, he kind of had said, I thought it was for Bondurant, the guy who had originally stepped on it.
Okay.
We made eye contact, and I just said, "Hey, first sergeant, I'm pretty effed up. If you could just treat my leg, my other leg." I wasn't super worried about my arm. But at the same time, like, I was having problems breathing, and I didn't tell anyone at the time, mostly because, like, I knew my role as a medic. It's a big morale thing when the medic gets hurt. So I was trying to be as like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, it's not a big deal. But in my mind, I was thinking like this was like kind of it. I was trying to like tell them who needed to go on the bird first. They tell me to shut up. Like, I'm not in charge now. And I said, well, you're still
doing your job.
Yeah. And it wasn't till like, the only time I really got mad was when they loaded me on the bird first. And I told them, like, like, screw you guys. Like, this isn't, like, I'm not the most injured. Like, Bondurant is missing both his legs. Like, he should be on first, not me. I'm fine. Because I also know, like, the most seriously injured gets on last because they're usually the last ones. Like, I felt like I shouldn't be, like, I'm going to die. So don't worry about me. But I can't tell you that because I don't want you guys to think that. So, and then the next thing I know, I'm on a bird, and then I pass out, and then really just kind of like, I'd come to for 20 minutes and then back out again. By the time I got to Kandahar Air Base, my blood pressure was 75/35. And I received a total, I think in country, I got close to 40 units of blood.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Chris, what would be kind of the first things that you would start, or what was kind of coming to you, once you were stabilized in a hospital? What would kind of come next?
I thought it was all a bad dream until I saw my stepdad. But when I saw him in Afghanistan, that was kind of like I broke down because I knew it was real.
Talk to us about that, because that's really a unique situation, your stepfather being in Afghanistan. Tell us about that, Chris.
So yeah, he just retired, but he was in the military as a military interrogator. He had deployed twice, I think, with the Army by this point, and then he was there as a contractor, obviously. Just happened he was stationed out of Kandahar, so he just happened to be there. And then, when they found out that I got hurt, his company was trying to figure out what they could do. They managed to get him. I think he was near Kandahar, so they flew him to Kandahar so he could meet me. And then they also just allowed him to fly all the way back to the United States with me.
Okay.
So that was kind of just a kind of like a side benefit. It was just nice having someone that I knew. Although my big thing there was like I kept telling him to check on my other two guys that ended up getting hurt. Gear was another dude. He was standing right behind me when I stepped on it. So he was pretty badly hurt. I kept telling him to check on those two guys, make sure they were good. And then I just happened to see a dude that I had been deployed with in Iraq. Was stationed in Germany. He drove like 4 hours to come see me. And that was like another moment where I was like, okay, this is for real. Like, this is just how my life is going to be. And then by the time I got to San Antonio, I think the initial shock had kind of wore off. I was just more or less like, all right, so what do we do now? I didn't really know the plan. Just get better, but you don't really know what that includes.
Right. First of all, Chris, thank you so very much for your service to our great country, and thank you for telling us about that day. What was, or where kind of was your headspace at that time? By the time okay, this is real. You're back in the U.S. now, looking at the rehabilitation that was going to come. Where were you kind of at in your head?
I knew something was wrong. And I knew something was wrong pretty quickly. Like within the first week of the hospital, I was sitting in my room. Somebody dropped like a bedpan outside, and it like my mom said, I just like completely, like my eye color changed, like everything changed about me. And that was when I realized, okay, like something's not right. So I had to basically plead with the hospital ward to even let me talk to someone. They kept saying, this isn't the place, this isn't the time. Like,
really?
Yeah. So we ended up having to get involved with that ombudsman. They're like representatives for you at the hospital. Basically.
Okay.
And they basically got a psychologist in there to come talk to me. And I think that was the reason why I do as well as I am. They just wanted to up my medication is all they wanted to do. Just up it and you'll be fine. You'll deal with it later. But I knew something wasn't right. And the medication wasn't, all it was doing was just making me not emotional, which is not what.
Yeah. Right.
So I started talking to this lady, and for like the next year, she kind of followed me, even though that she really wasn't supposed to see people outpatient. It was that, like she knew me, I knew her, and I was comfortable with her. I just stuck with her for like a year. But it was actually a year later where I had my big issue where I was going to kill myself. I had a plan to kill myself. Went to Thanksgiving in Georgia where some of my family is, saw my best friend. And it was after that where I kind of went like, all right, I can't go out like this. Should probably try and do something with my life instead of doing something like this. So
what, if you don't mind me asking, Chris, because so you were to a point, like you had a plan,
yeah.
What do you think it was though that steered you out of that in that time?
It was a lot of, I think I realized how many more people I was going to hurt by doing that versus living and like just giving it a shot. Like I just felt like giving it a year. You're not really sure what your life is going to be like. You just started school. You need to, hopefully this is something where things had passed. And I think a lot of things added into it. Like I had that month, I just cold turkey stopped taking my antipsychotic meds. I think it was Zoloft. I just said, I'm not taking this anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't wean myself off, which is how you're not supposed to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I was still in a lot of pain. And, it was just a year of just like, it's set when I got hurt. Like I'm going to be walking within 2 months. I'm going to be running within 6. I'm going to be walking for when my unit redeploys.
Okay.
I'm going to be walking without crutches. Well, I had gotten my leg 2 weeks before my unit redeployed. So I was still on crutches when I went and saw them. So it's like all these things that I had set aside in my head, those things that I'm going to do by this date, they didn't meet. And so I think that year of just frustration had been built up. And then add on to that and I just didn't feel like anyone was they were going to either love me because they pitied me or they were going to love me because they felt bad for me. Like I didn't feel like anyone was going to love me for who I am. And then, I just kind of had to like work through that.
Were you going to school during this time, Chris?
Yeah. Yes. It was my first semester. They basically told us after a year, like you had to either get a job or go to school. And
Okay.
so I thought, well, I can go to school because I can pick my schedule and I can pick my schedule around the formation so I don't have to go to formations anymore. So, which is what I did. I
Nice. Yeah.
early enough that I couldn't go to morning formation, and then I had a later class that was just late enough I couldn't get to formation in time. So I basically was just in the army, going to rehab during the day, and then going to class, which was like two. It was like 3 classes, nothing crazy. I just really wanted to see if I could one handle it, and two, like
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure if I'm going to go to school, like I can do this. And yeah.
So once you would kind of get through that year, Chris, what would those next couple years look like for you? How would that turn out?
I decided just to dedicate myself to school. So I just had to like pick something to like obsess over, I guess, and just commit 100%. So I just picked school. I wanted to go to a good school somewhere. I didn't know. I was still at the time leaning towards physical therapy. Um, so, I was doing all my, my gen ed stuff at St. Philip's in San Antonio. And then after, this is like my second year, I started applying to schools. So applied to some Texas schools, University of Wisconsin, and University of Utah, and got into Utah and Wisconsin. And then, so it was basically just choosing between the two. And the thing that won it over was a buddy of mine that I had deployed with. I had just gone to his wedding and I was considering Utah. And then he was like, you should apply here. It's a good school. So I looked it up. I was like, it looks good. And then I met his sister, who would later become my wife. And then,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I ended up at Utah.
Okay.
Sheer dumb luck. And then just happened to apply, got in. And then I would say like the rest is history once I got there.
That's incredible. Do you feel, Chris, like what you did in the military overlapped to what you would go on and study then in school? Like, was that kind of a driving force with it?
Yeah. One of my soldiers had been an athletic training student in college. Had to drop out just due to money, ran out of money and wasn't sure that's what he wanted to do, but liked the profession itself. So I kind of was going to get my bachelor's, then go get my master's or doctorate in physical therapy. But when I was in school, I kind of realized like I'd much rather just work with athletes. I can be an athletic trainer and do the same exact thing, but just with a very specific population, which is why I chose athletic training.
Very cool. Very cool. Chris, talk to us a little bit about what you do today as an athletic trainer.
So it's a lot of, I do orthopedic examinations. Now I can't technically diagnose an injury, but I can say like, this is probably an ankle sprain. If it's like a MCL sprain, so in your knee, I would refer to a doctor and for plans. I can do rehabs. I can do basic workout programs for teams, although that's not something I do a ton of, but I can. We watch practices, cover games. So it's a lot like being a medic and like covering field exercises. You're doing your evals. It's a lot like being a medic with these infantry dudes, because you really have to you have to Barney style some things that they understand it.
Right.
And not use strict medical terminology, which is something I got really good at, because you have to, infantry guy tears up his knee. He's like, well, what? And you're like, well, the tissue, you tore it, so you can't walk. You need it fixed. Okay. Well, should I get it fixed? Yeah, man, you should get it fixed. I mean, I still get calls every once in a while from my guys like, hey, man, this is what's going on. Should I get this fixed? Yes, you should absolutely do that.
I love it, yeah.
But it's a lot of that. I mean, and it's a lot of I tell my students all the time, like, this is like exactly like being a medic without getting shot at. And I love that part about it. I don't have to worry about that. So it's nice. I mean, it's the constantly trying to figure out what's going on, and I work in a heavy Hispanic population. So there is a lot of like, sometimes I'm having to use students as translators, just to do a eval. So that's something, again, I'm really used to doing.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So it's not like I understand how to talk to them. Like I stare right at them, just talking to them, and just somebody is translating for us. Stuff like that, where it's like, hey, I've done this for years. So not a problem.
Would you, and I mean, obviously it's different, like you said, like it's like being a medic, but not being shot at. So we know that piece of it's gone, right? The war piece of it's removed. But do you feel kind of like you're saying, kind of that mentality,
Mhm.
right, that we talked a little bit about in the beginning? Do you still carry kind of that same medic's mentality in your day to day job
Yeah,
now, working
yeah,
with?
and
Yeah,
we do that all the time with kids. I mean, we, I don't like saying it's a safe space, but it really is. Kids will come and
yeah,
complain about certain things. They'll complain about coaches because they know
right.
that we're not going to go and tattle on them. If they're talking bad about a coach, we might redirect them. But like if they're
Yeah,
complaining about, or like like I have a senior that wants to quit soccer, and I was just like, you got 2 weeks left. I know you may not think about it right now, but you're going to regret it later in life. Like you finished, even if you don't play the last 2 weeks, you're going to hate it more that you quit when you're like, oh, the finish line was almost there. So it's a lot of that, but it's way less, and it's all stuff that I at least know what I'm talking about, like the sports. Like
right.
I was never a starter in football. I did start, but not. I wouldn't call myself a starter. Soccer, I was pretty decent at, but I can talk to these kids, and they also know
Yeah,
when they get really hurt. I also know what I'm talking about with it, like how frustrating rehab.
exactly. Yep, for sure.
And they know that. So, when I'm going through a long term rehab, they seem to get less frustrated because I can be like, dude, I know what you're feeling like. You're frustrated today. And I get that. You can be as mad as you want today. It's okay.
That's so cool. It's so cool that you're able to have that impact on them because I can only imagine the incredible impact that you're having on these men and women on a daily basis. That's just incredible. That's awesome. Um, I want to switch gears here a little bit, Chris, and talk to you a bit about your individual fitness and catch a lift. Would you talk to us a little bit about your individual fitness today? What that looks like for you?
Yeah. So, depending on the week, because I do flip flop schools. So one school we have a lot more. Me and my boss, we kind of switch our schedules around. So I have like one of us will cover morning, one of us will cover afternoon. So those days, try and get a workout in. Days that I don't do anything, it's like a 30-minute walk and either 20 minutes of core or like a 30-minute yoga session. That to me has been something just for my mind as well, just keeping my mind right. Um, because I've been dealing with some injuries the last couple months, so just kind of lifting as much as I can, but also taking proper time off just because it's been some nagging stuff that I'm trying to prevent having surgery.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I lift it's really hard on the weekends. That's when I go hard.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah.
Beat the crap out of myself, and then during the week, just kind of a little bit more maintenance, maintaining. Trying to get on a better schedule. Just trying to figure it out. Um, it's just minor stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think without Cal, I wouldn't be able to pull it off. I wouldn't have the home gym that I have now. Um, and I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I like to do, like just strictly. Sometimes it's just I just go in the garage and just pick up some plates and throw them around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's my therapy. It's really what it is.
Right.
I'm a much happier person when I'm lifting versus when I'm not. It's that simple.
I think, I mean, I certainly understand that in my own way, and I know the veterans listening in Cal are going to understand that too, Chris. How did you become a veteran in Cal? How did you find Cal? How did that happen for you?
Through Jason Smith. Shout out
Yeah,
to Jason Smith.
nice, Coach Jason. There we go.
Yeah, we had been in rehab together.
Really?
Yeah, we were there at the same time. I think I got there before he did.
Okay.
We kind of just not like kept in touch, but just through like social media.
Yeah.
And then I kept seeing stuff on him do stuff on Instagram, like he was getting jacked, and I was kind of jealous. I was like, man, like where are you getting this stuff at? And
Yeah.
he pointed me towards Cal. I applied for it, and then it was before the pandemic, so and I completely forgot about it. So one day I get an email saying you've been accepted into the Cal program, and I was like, the what now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cal.
Yeah.
I'll do it. What do I got to do? And they're like, well, what would you like? And so I got just a squat rack. I had some bars. I had a bar and some plates already. I just needed the squat rack. That's all I needed in life was just that. I can do pretty much everything I need to, and some bands. That's all I need to work out. 4 bands, a plate, 2 plates and a bar, and I can get
Heck yeah.
anything I need to get done. Um, so that's basically where that started, was just lifting more frequently and just using it as like a time, especially during the like like during my summers, because like summer's the only time I have off really. So like I use the summertime to just hit it 5-6 days a week hard, absolutely as hard as I can. So that way during the school year, I'm maintaining the progress that I had from the summer.
Very cool. Um, Chris, what would, just in general, and it doesn't have to be like lifting specific in the gym, but what's your favorite way to stay active now?
Um, Probably that, and yoga is something that I think
Nice.
has been more beneficial for me than anything. Because there's a lot of poses that like I could have told you like a year ago, there's no way I would have been able to pull them off. I've gotten some down. There's some stuff that I just can't do. But just that challenge of doing something where like some girl who weighs 105 pounds is just absolutely beating the crap out of
Oh,
me.
yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous. You're 100 pounds and you're doing this effortlessly, and I'm over
Right?
here
Yeah.
like, cursing up a corn cursing like a sailor because my leg can't go that direction, and I'm mad because you're doing it and I can't. So it just keeps me competitive because I know I'm not gonna be able to compete with them, but that's fine. That's what I do it for. Just that like in that mind body. Again, my favorite pose though is shavasana at the end, where you're just laying on the.
Oh, it's yes.
Because
Yes.
at that point I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I don't know why I'm doing this, but then I do it again the next day. So
Very cool. Very cool. Let me ask you, Chris, what advice would you have for, another veteran or another person who is learning to adapt and overcome their injuries from service? What kind of advice would you have for them if they're struggling with that to really just get going again in fitness and in life?
there's always someone that's been through it. You're never the first person. I think that was something that I saw in rehab and I wasn't like, I got to see, like, I wasn't even the worst person that was hurt the worst. When you're doing core with triple and double amputees, like and double arm amputees, you're like, my life is not that bad. And if they can get through life and be successful and be happy, I can too. And there's nothing that's going to stop me. The only thing that's stopping me is myself. So my best piece of advice is just like, find those people that motivate you and make you push yourself, because those are the people that are going to make you better. Don't find people that are just going to be yes men, because they're not going to lead you down a good path. They're going to tell you that, yeah, your life is terrible and, you have every right in the world to be angry, but, like, is that the life you want to live? And then I choose most days to be happy, because the only person making me mad, sad, or happy is myself. And once you put that onus on you, you can be the happiest person in the world, and the whole world could be crumbling around you, but you're happy, and that's all that matters. It's your happiness. So yeah, just find someone that makes you do things that make you happy, and those are the people you need to surround yourself with.
I like that. Totally agree. Thank you for touching on that, Chris. Um, so again, you continue to push forward with your life, with your education. So many great things going on in your life. Catch a Lift was recently able to sponsor you for an ISSA personal training certification. Would you touch on that a little bit, Chris, and what it was like going through that program?
Yeah, I mean, it was like a lot of it was review for me. It was just reviewing anatomy, understanding some concepts with lifting that I was unaware of. But it was just nice because I know that I can use this to give back to both veterans, which is what my main goal of that whole thing was. Because I can see things in like the veteran population now that like I didn't see 5 years ago.
Right.
Because I've kind of made it through that like period where I can help others more than just as much as I can help myself. And I know what to look for when I'm having issues. So I use that experience, like with everything I went through in school, that like if I can make it through that, I can make it through an ISSA program and become a certified personal trainer, because at the end I can help other people, and that's really what I want to do with it. I don't know if I ever want to get paid for it. Just do it to help people get better. And then I've
That's
had
awesome.
some ideas recently of helping athletes that can't afford proper weightlifting coaching, because I've seen some of these kids that are getting recruited, and they don't have $5,000 to spare for a
Yeah.
personal coach,
Yep.
a weightlifting coach. So they're getting kind of passed up, and they're having to go other routes for school. And if they had someone that could do that for them, that would be great. So that's an idea that I've had just recently, because it just seeing some of these kids, I'm blown away by how hard they work. And any opportunity they have to get and better themselves, I want them to take that.
Yeah. Chris, I have one last question for you today. What does it mean to you to be a Catch a Lift Fund veteran athlete?
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of like seeing something again come full circle, like being on the outside, not like having a direction, but it's giving me more direction. It's giving me more purpose. It's giving me like more confidence in myself, which is giving me more confidence in my work and my personal life. And it helps me set an example for my son, which is ultimately what I want, is him to see that, like, yeah, things can happen to you. Yes, life can be tough, but if you make it through it, you are a much tougher person and you're much more resilient. And people will look to you for advice, because they see you doing things that otherwise you thought were impossible. I 10 years ago didn't think having a family was possible, but here I am. So I mean, like, that is what I use everything for, is to just show him that, like, it's possible to do things that you set your mind to if you really want it.
Chris, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your light with us. That's it for this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We will return next Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time with another new episode. Thank you again, Chris, for coming on, sharing your story and your light with us all today. It was absolutely terrific. Huge thank you to ID Technologies for your support of this Catch a Lift Fun Coach's Corner podcast and all things Catch a Lift. We thank Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for all of the work you do to make this podcast possible week after week. And we thank the entire Catch a Lift team. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal Swag and to chat with your brothers and sisters. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.